Hi, everyone. Life Coach Carissa here, back with you today to talk about acceptance. It seems like such a harmless little word, right? And yet that word has brought me so much pain and sorrow and frustration and confusion. What about you? Acceptance. Have you encountered circumstances in your life that you once had difficulty accepting? Maybe you still do. It could be something that occurred in your life or in the life of someone you love. Maybe there's someone that you care about who has made choices that you struggle with accepting. Maybe it's someone that you just have a hard time accepting at all, a family member, a coworker. I want you to know that you are absolutely not alone. That's the beauty of this. So much of what each of us deal with, someone else is dealing with the exact same thing and maybe just a slightly different form. And my hope is that we can bring some peace by sharing information and sharing our struggles. That's what this is all about. So the word acceptance has several definitions. The one I am referring to is within the construct of human psychology, which is a person's assent to the reality of a situation, recognizing a process or a condition, often a negative or uncomfortable situation that has already happened or it has been decided without attempting to change it or protest it. That is the technical Google definition of acceptance. Okay, so let's make that a little simpler. It is really learning how to find peace with a circumstance or a person that you cannot change so that you can live a life free from being in conflict with it. So I'm sure you're thinking, well, where do I start, Carissa? Where do I start on accepting people and things more? How do I accept these unfortunate circumstances that happen in my life? I do believe that mindfulness is required before we can move to acceptance. You must be aware of your thoughts, your feelings, and what your actions are saying, as those are going to often conflict with your capacity to be able to accept something. For example, I can say that I accept your decision to leave our mom's group that we're in, and I will go tell everyone about your decision and share my areas of disagreement with it. That is not acceptance. Or I pretend to like you, family member, but inside I am just unraveled because I cannot deal with the things you say or the way you act. So I try to smile and I vent about it to my husband later. That is not acceptance. Or maybe, in honor of the political shit show that we are about to embark upon, I share my views with you and they heavily contradict yours. And you spend so much time trying to convince me that my perspective or view is wrong or flawed. That is not acceptance. True acceptance is hard. Acceptance is one of the hardest lessons that I've had to take on. And I'm still on that journey. Absolutely. I'm not done with it yet. So first of all, we have to get extremely clear and factual on what it is that we aren't able to accept. Is it rooted in feelings and opinions? Is it something that you would even have the right to control for someone else? You have to be very concise and clear on what it is that you are struggling to accept, and then ask yourself if you have the right to impose your lack of acceptance on someone else. I have had so many examples in my life where acceptance was just not something that I was intentional about. I would continue to claw and scratch my way to a different outcome. And I would say at those times, I was not being very mindful at all. That's what I want to offer to you, how to start the steps to being more mindful and figuring out what areas you are lacking acceptance in your life. Recently I spoke with my son about being able to open up and share more in depth about our journey together as mother and son. And he supports me fully and the work that I do, and he granted me that latitude. Can I just say that I love him so much publicly? He is 22 and has turned out to be my greatest teacher and my greatest inspiration to change a lot of my ways. You see, for many years, I was not accepting of him as he was. I had this vision in my mind of what I wanted him to be. I wanted him to be better than I was. I had made some choices in my life throughout my life that I've regretted. And so I was really hyper focused on making him the recreation of me, the proof that I am a good person. I am good enough. I'm going to be a great mom. He will behave exactly like this. He will be amazing at sports and set personal records. He will be great at things I like to do, like cycling, for example. I will get him to train and want to train like me. He will excel in his studies and he will get great grades and he will have this bright future that I didn't feel like I had. I had it all planned out for him. I never told him this story, of course. It was all up here, but I sure did act it out. Well, what do you think happened? It didn't go so well. And I'll be sharing more about all of that as I go forward. But from an overarching perspective, our relationship broke down because I wasn't open to learning who he was authentically trying to be, how he was trying to figure out who he was meant to be. I wasn't open to giving him the space to explore, to make mistakes, to try new things, to just be average, to be below average. I didn't have space for that. I didn't have acceptance for that. And when a relationship becomes so one-sided, it has nowhere to grow, right? What I hope to accomplish with this message is that you will look at the areas or circumstances or people in your life where you lack acceptance, and you will get to the bottom of the facts of it. What is true here? Why does this bother me? Why am I trying to control someone else? I mean, even children are meant to have their own identity and spirit. We are meant to be guides and put up boundaries and keep them safe and cared for. Why do we have to make everything look the right way? This story that we create in our minds. So I wanted to give you some steps to work through this as you think about this whole topic of acceptance. So step 1, clarify what you can control. Get factual on being honest and connecting to your highest self on what is actually happening here and should I have a right to not want to accept it. Number 2, acknowledge your feelings. I don't want you to think that you can't feel a certain way or that you're somehow wrong or flawed with the way that you're feeling. I want you to get curious about where it's coming from. Often it does come from stories and situations in our childhood that we haven't really processed fully or dealt with in a healthy manner. I want you to feel what you feel and then say, yes, but this is not really my place. Number 3, I want you to identify your fears because fear is at the heart of a lot of this. It goes along with the lines of the point that I just said. Get to the bottom of what is really bothering you or what is making you make this thing mean something to the point to where you don't want to accept it. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of happening? What is your biggest fears, worries? There is often a story there, right? A story that can come from our past, our upbringing, our experiences, situations that have happened in our life that left kind of a scar or trauma on our heart and soul. So I want you to look at the fear, see what is underneath it. Number 4, focus on what you can control. Get clear on what your sphere of influence really is in this situation, what it should properly be. I've said this in many messages before this one. In case you haven't figured it out yet, we are not meant to control other human adults. And I would go a step further to say that once our kids begin to really explore their own identity, we are not meant to script that for them either. Again, it is about healthy boundaries and guardrails, but you have to do the steps before this one to even decide what is a healthy boundary or a guardrail, right? Because we can sometimes disguise what we think we're doing the right thing can be disguised with something that's not very healthy, right? In places that we shouldn't be intervening and having an opinion on. And number 5, have compassion for yourself. Our brain was created to keep us safe and looking out for danger. So anything that it perceives as a threat to our well-being, it's going to draw your attention to it and often make you feel like this is something imminent that needs your involvement. It's like a big flashing warning light going off. Okay. Your brain was designed this way. You have to be the manager of that. You have to be the one in charge. You have to be mindful of what's happening up here, right? So those are my 5 steps to get you started on your path to acceptance. And it is my hope that you will truly do this work and ask yourself, where and what am I not accepting in my life? And it's causing me pain and suffering. I am telling you firsthand, I resisted acceptance in so many different situations in my life, and it caused me so much pain. Resistance about the childhood I had, resistance that my parents didn't have a happy, healthy marriage, resistance that I was in a family business that I never really felt like I decided on, resistance when my parents separated, resistance for my son and who he was trying to explore and become, resistance for my daughter and who she will become, resistance when my dad passed away, resistance to doing the work of going back into my childhood. Like I resisted it all. Resistance of leaving a career that I had been in for so long and building a new one, right? Resistance, resistance, resistance. I finally had to figure out that acceptance is where I need to go because I finally challenged myself and asked myself, why? Why do I resist what is actually happening around me? What right do I have to impose everything that I believe on someone else? What right do I have to make everyone else miserable because I feel miserable? And as I have learned to explore and get curious and comfort myself and ultimately move to acceptance, I have the peace in my heart and mind that I am doing all that my Creator asked of me, to love my neighbor as I would love myself. I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to not be accepted for who I am and what I believe and what I want to do. So I want to extend that to everyone else. We're all worthy of that, right? So acceptance, I challenge you. I challenge you to look where you're not accepting and start to make some progress towards acceptance so that you can feel more peace and contentment in your life. Okay, everyone. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you for listening. If you found this content helpful, please click that like button for me. You can also click the subscribe button and you'll get notified as soon as new videos are uploaded. And by all means, if you or someone you know is really having trouble with accepting something in their life, please have them message me. You can reach me on all my social channels and at lifecoachingwithcarissa.com. I do offer a 1-hour complimentary coaching session so you can find out if our working together could be helpful for you. When you are stuck or in pain, what have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? All right, everyone, have a great day, and I will see you in a couple weeks.